So we're all swimming in AI these days, right? It's everywhere. But what if I told you the way we're building it, the way we're even measuring it, might be totally missing the point? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical new approach to artificial intelligence, one that challenges the very definition of what it means to be smart.
And it all boils down to this one big question. Are the AIs we use every single day actually intelligent? Or are they just, really, really sophisticated mimics? It forces you to stop and think, what even is intelligence? Is it about having all the answers, or is it about being able to figure out something you've never seen before? Okay, and this is where you can really see the difference. On one side, you've got our current AIs, the large language models. The best way to think about them is like giant digital libraries. They've read the entire internet, right? But ask them to learn a brand new skill and they're shockingly inefficient, like orders of magnitude worse than us. Now, humans, we're a totally different beast. We're more like engines for learning new stuff. We can pick up new skills with just a tiny bit of experience. And that gap right there, that's the whole problem we're talking about.
So you gotta ask, how do you even begin to build an AI that's an engine, not a library? And more importantly, how do you measure that? Well, that's where the ARC prize comes in. It's a whole new benchmark, built from the ground up to push for a totally new kind of intelligence.
So ARC stands for Abstraction and Reasoning Corpus, and its whole point isn't to see what an AI has memorized. Nope. It's all about measuring how well it can tackle a problem it has never seen before, and do it efficiently. Just like a person would, without needing to go and study a million examples first. It's all about that ability to learn on the fly.
And ARC itself has been evolving, which is super interesting. The first couple of versions were all about passive learning. Think of it like an AI reading a textbook and then taking a test on it. But the latest version, V3, is a massive jump. Now it demands interactive learning. The AI can't just sit back and look at data. It has to actually do things, explore its little world, and gather its own information. Kind of like how a toddler learns, right? By poking things and seeing what happens. It's about going from being a passive observer to an active agent.
And this is exactly why the guy who created it, Francois Chollet, says that any system that can actually solve this interactive version of ARC is, and I'm quoting here, basically a micro-AGI, because it's showing off the exact properties you'd want in a real artificial general intelligence. Things like figuring out its own goals and learning super efficiently, just, in a tiny controlled environment.
All right, so how does this thing actually test for intelligence? This is where it gets really, really clever. The whole test is designed to completely sidestep a huge problem in AI just to get right to the core of what matters. Here's the most important thing to get. ARC is not a vision test. It's not about whether an AI can spot a cat in a photo. That's a different problem. In ARC, the game board, all the data, it's already served up in a way a computer can easily understand. The whole point is to strip everything else away and only test its ability to reason.
And yeah, that was totally on purpose. It was a strategic choice. As Chollet explains, the whole perception problem was just getting in the way. To really measure what they cared about, that efficient learning and skill building, they had to take the vision part completely out of the picture. It's like they're trying to isolate the pure logic and problem-solving part of the brain, if you will.
So here you can see the two roads laid out, clear as day. The LLM path is all about being a giant repository, a library of skills built by churning through insane amounts of data. But the ARC path, the path to general intelligence, is about being an engine that can build those same skills from just a few examples. It really is a fundamental fork in the road, philosophically speaking. Are you building a library, or are you building a learner?
But, one of the wildest things about ARC isn't just what it's testing. It's how it's testing it. There's this really deep, kind of cool philosophy baked right into the design of the puzzles themselves, and it all centers on something very, very human. Which brings us to a kind of weird question, right? Why in the world would you make a super serious, cutting-edge AI test, fun? It sounds almost silly, but trust me, there's a very clever strategy at play here.
See, making the games fun actually does a few really important things. For one, it just makes the whole thing a more appealing cultural artifact, right? It gets more smart people interested in working on it. But even more crucially, if the games are actually enjoyable, human players will try harder, and that gives you way better data. And think about it. For the researchers building this stuff, if they can have fun playing it, it helps them think about how they solve problems. That kind of self-reflection is absolute gold when you're trying to build an AGI. And here's the cool theory behind it all.
Fun isn't just some random feeling. In these games, fun is what happens when your brain is learning at its maximum rate. The puzzles have to be hard enough to make you learn, but not so hard that you just give up. It's all about keeping you in that perfect zone, that sweet spot of challenge and progress, and our brains absolutely love that.
Okay, so let's pull back for a second. We've talked about what ARC is and how it works, but what would it actually mean if someone solved it? What does that do for the grand quest for AGI?
Now, this is a really important point. The goal here isn't to build some kind of all-powerful, universal superintelligence that can solve the mysteries of the cosmos. No, the target is specifically human general intelligence. And why is that? Well, because we're the only example of general intelligence that we actually have. The sheer variety of new stuff we can just figure out is incredible, and that's the kind of flexible, adaptable smarts they're trying to replicate.
And this project is just getting started, really. The long-term vision is to scale this whole thing way, way up. Imagine taking the basic ideas from V3 and dropping them into way more complex worlds, throwing in endless new challenges, maybe even other AIs to interact with. And instead of testing an AI for a few minutes, you'd measure its growth over the equivalent of years of game time. The idea is that the test and the AI will grow up together, each one pushing the other to get better.
So that leaves us with the big one, the final question. Is this really the way to do it? Is building an AI that doesn't just know things, but that actually learns like a human, efficiently by doing things from experience, is that the real path to AGI? The people behind the ARC prize are betting that it is. And honestly, it's going to be a fascinating bet to watch play out.